morning, everyone. Well, just a short video today on a faux metal technique. This is one of the cards I've made. I came about to do this because I ran out of copper foil that I wanted to use. So I'm going to show you today how to do a faux metal technique. This is one card that I've done, and I have shown this previously many years ago, and I thought I would revisit it. This is another one I've done using gold, and I've done some stamping as well on that one. So this also is a card that I did, and I cut out a die cut using the faux metal technique, but I've cut the dies out of that, and now the backgrounds were just some serviettes that I had, so I did that. So let's get started, shall we? So what I've got here is a 2x4 piece of white cardstock. I use these, or I will be using these for artistic trading cards, just like the kids use for trading Pokemon cards, etc. But we're going to do different techniques on them, and then we can trade with other people as artistic trading cards. But that's another video for another time. So what I'm going to do here is just get my Versamark, and I'm going to rub it or just dab it onto the cardstock randomly. You don't have to completely cover it either. Now, I was tossing up whether to use my gold or my copper because I didn't have much copper, but I ended up going with the copper in the end. Now, you'll see I've got them in little tubs because I just find that's easy with a little spoon to spread them over, but they do come in little tubs like that from Stampin' Up. That's an old blue one that I have, but the metallic ones, the gold, black, silver, copper, are the best ones for this technique, obviously. So here I am, I'm just getting my Versamark pad ready, and I'm just randomly stamping over the white cardstock. Doesn't have to be full coverage, because you will see as I go on the coverage, and it gives it that little bit of eclectic finish. It's not exact, I'm not sure what you'd call it, but a nice uneven edge. It's just something different rather than having full coverage. Of course, you can do a full coverage if you like. So I'm just dabbing it on with the Versamark on. So then we're going to take our copper embossing powder. I've got a tray here that I use to sprinkle in so we don't lose a lot of the copper, and another reason for that you will see later on, because you can use the dregs to actually dab it on. So I'm just pouring it all in there. As you can see, I don't have much left, but as I said, a little bit goes a long way. So just shake off the excess, put your tray aside, and then I'm going to heat with my heat tool, heat emboss that. And I love heat embossing. I love getting that nice shine on it. So this was a bit noisy, so I'm glad you can't see it, but I'm going to speed up the film. Right, so that's the first layer done. I'm going to, as you'll see, you'll do it in layers. So there's two ways. You can Versamark it again and put more embossing powder on the top. A little bit out of camera there, I'm sorry, but you just sprinkle that over the top of that again, and so you build up your layers of embossing powder. So and you'll see it's starting to get a lot thicker, and then we're going to heat emboss that again. Okay, so the other way you can do it while that is still wet from the heat, you can actually layer it onto the powder in your tray, and that's why I suggest using a tray for this. I had a little bit of paper stuck in there from my die cut that got into my paper, into my embossing paste, and then go ahead and heat emboss that again. So you're building up. You can heat it from the back if you wish, but I just did it at the front, so you can see that nice shine that we're getting, and you can see the build up of that copper embossing powder, and it's just got a very rough edge around it, so it's going to make a great background. So what I do now is I actually get my stamp ready. So the stamp I'm using is from the Forever Fern set. Now I'm going to just activate that copper foil a bit more, because what I want to do is etch that image into the hot metal, so to speak. So it's going to have like an etched image. So I'm just using a bit more of the copper powder, copper embossing powder, and I'm going to heat that, and then that stamp, there's no ink on it. I am just going to etch it into the hot while the copper is still hot. So here I am just heating up the embossing powder again, and I've got my stamp ready. You can dip it in Versamark if you want. I don't think I did for this one. I don't think, oh yes I did, there I go. And then once that's warm, and you can see that that metal embossing powder is still melted, so to speak, you just take your image and stamp it in place just once. Okay, now you've got to leave that there until that sets. So that'll take a few minutes. So then you've got time to clean up your mess and put all your stuff away. And what that is going to do is going to give you a metal etched image. So yeah, and then you'll see, oh, it's quite amazing to think that you can use your stamps for something other than just ink. Okay, so we're just going to lift that off now that that's cooled. Peel it away. Oh, it's come off my block. Yes, but that's all right. So just peel that. It does stick, but you'll see mine hasn't come out quite as clear as I'd want, because I didn't put enough pressure on that top end. Don't worry about that. I'm going to put an image over the top, but that gives you an idea of how that etched image comes out into your metal. I really love this effect. So what I'm going to do now is I just actually have the notepads and envelopes already done. They're scored and everything all ready to go. So that image can go straight on the front of a note card. So I don't have to cut my cardstock or anything. These are notepads, and I will put the description in the description on where you can get these from. So I'm just going to add that onto the front cover there like that. So what I'm going to do now is just emboss that image on another piece of white cardstock using my Versamark and my copper embossing paste. So this image is going to be overlaid the top of that etched metal, faux metal etching on the front of the card. So I'm just heat embossing this, so I'll just speed the video up for you. So here we have our cut image, and it's all ready to go onto our faux metal background with our metal etched image as well. So you can see the paper's curled a little bit. I'm just going to take the heat gun and apply the heat at the back of the cardstock, and that helps flatten it out. So that's a little tip for you. So if you do happen to get a little bit of paper curl, just turn it over and heat it from the back. What I would say is, though, if you are doing that, don't lie it flat down like I just did. Hold it up and do it, because that will, I forgot that of course the metal's going to get activated. The embossing powder is going to get activated on the other side. But luckily I managed to get away with it without too much damage. So I'm just going to adhere that cut image now to that. So I've got all my little bits and pieces together, and I'm just figuring out how I'm going to lay it onto my card. I'm thinking I'll just cover up the top bit so it's got the illusion of another layer there as well. So the best glue I would use for this would be the liquid Tombow glue. That's a good strong adhesive. Now, because it's got the embossing powders on it and a few layers and it is quite thick, I would advise that your Tombow glue would probably be best for this. So I'm just going to apply some of that all around, and then I'll put that onto the front of the card. I'm going portrait size. So that's going to be, it is a fair bit smaller than the card front. It's, as I said, it was only a 3x4. But I wanted that extra layer around it so it's centered in the the middle of the card. So I'm just using some Stampin' Dimensionals now just to pop up that cutout of the leaves to give it a bit more dimension. So the Take Your Pick tool is great for putting these little dimensionals on and picking the backing off. So that's going to go, and I'm going to layer that over that. Yeah. Okay, about there. No, I probably changed my mind 2 or 3 times, but it's up to you. There's no right or wrong. This is your design and however you want to do it. You won't do it exactly the same as mine, but I'm really loving that background. It's very abstract, and it's like it's just dotted into the abyss, you might say. This sounds very technical. So what I'm going to do now is get a bit of ribbon and do a sentiment and finish it off. So I've just found that it's just not sticking very well there. I just don't think I've added enough glue. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit more liquid Tombow glue just underneath that section there, just to stick that down a little bit firmer, and just wiping away the excess glue with a paper towel. So just ensure that when you do adhere it, that you do adhere it down. So what I've done is I've just made a bow out of some early espresso ribbon that I have, and I'm just attaching it using glue dots. I find the glue dots are really good for attaching ribbons or any bulky sort of materials that you have to any of your cards. So I'm just now using my copper embossing powder to heat emboss the sentiment, which is the Hello from the Forever Ferns Suite set, which is in the annual catalogue. So I'm just rubbing my paper, my cardstock, with the embossing buddy, just to get rid of any static so that any excess embossing powder doesn't stick. However, if it does, you can just brush it away with a paintbrush, a dry paintbrush. So I'm just stamping it, dabbing it in the Versamark ink, stamping it on my scrap piece of white cardstock. Then I'm going to put it and heat emboss it. So I'll speed up the video for you. So I've cut that sentiment Hello out from the Forever Fern set and heat embossed it, and I was using the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and then I've run it through my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, which is great when you only have one of those, a little die that you need to cut. So any of these products are available at my blog site, which has a link to my shop. Please feel free to hop on over or send me a message anytime. Love to see what any of you have made. Share what you love, that's the saying. So thanks again for joining me today, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye.